ISD 181 School Board to order. We'll start with roll call, please, Kelly.
Kevin Boyle,
Here.
Michelle Brecken,
Here.
Jay Donley,
Here.
Randy Heidman,
Here.
Sarah Spear,
Here.
John Ward.
All this together.
Thank you. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance,
Maybe
please.
I'll add more here. I hate my spot.
Be a patriot today.
Trying.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just let me know if we need to separate you two. He's
More
just
talk.
over there so you can copy off the paper, Michelle. Just so you know.
I don't know why they
I'll
don't
put
do
it
it.
over here.
All right, so this meeting of the Brainerd School Board is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statute 13D.02. The meeting is being recorded and access to the recording will be made available on the district's website soon. All right, so we will move forward with the approval of this agenda as presented, please. All
So moved.
Second.
right, we have a motion from Director Spear with a second from Director Heidman to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. First vocal vote in a very long time. I was almost properly trained to do roll call votes. Okay, motion carries. Public input, this is a special board meeting, so there will be no public input during this particular meeting. And then we'll move on to approval of minutes for the regular school board meeting on April 8th.
Motion.
Second. All right, so we have a motion from Director Donalinger with a second from Director Ward to approve the April 8th board meeting minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next will be approval of the special school board meeting minutes from last week, the April 22nd special school board meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
A second?
All right, so we have a motion from Director Brecken with a second from Director Spear to approve the April 22nd board meeting minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, here we go. So action item number 1 is to review the applicant information with Barb from MSBA. Talk about the interviews, interview processes and whatnot. So Barb, I'm going to turn the floor over to you and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Chair Boyles. It's nice to see everyone again. Got a lot ahead of you this afternoon for this meeting. We're really going to be covering 2 big items. The first item will be the naming of your finalists. They will be semifinalists because they're going to be in the first round, but statute does say anyone who's selected to be interviewed by the board is named a finalist. So that's the first big item of agenda today. And then we're going to prepare for your round 1 interviews, which will start this Thursday. So there's some loose ends and some housekeeping that we need to wrap up in order to prepare for the first round of interviews later this week. I do have some loose ends at the very end of the meeting as well. And also typically what we do, it's up to the board, I do read the names of the finalists at the end of the meeting out loud to give me a little bit of time to call them. What we don't want to do is announce their names and have people hear via social media or from text messages. So if it's okay with the board, even though you name them perhaps midway through the meeting, I typically read them at the end. And then when you adjourn, I immediately pick up the phone and start calling everybody. But we'll get to that point here in just a moment. So those are the 2 big items we're going to cover. You have some information from me in front of you. There was some information I believe Kelly printed for everyone. And so in that packet, there's a few things that I want to do in order to get to the first item here, which is identifying the finalists that you select to be interviewed. In that packet, there is an overview of MSBA's vetting process. And so I know that you've all read that, you're all familiar with what we did, but I do want to just very briefly review that verbally for the people who are in the audience, as well as for those folks who are perhaps watching this at a later time. So MSBA reviewed the applications at the same time the school board members were reviewing applications for Brainerd Public Schools. What we do is we have service providers, mostly former superintendents or former school board members, that review all of those applications, and they look for alignment with 2 things: the leadership profile crafted by the school board and the results of the stakeholder summary report. Again, you had tremendous turnout from your stakeholders for that report. So in looking at those 2 items, our service providers then individually rate each candidate on a scale of 1 to 5. all the way from no to yes and everything in between. So then once they've had a chance to do that, we do meet as a group and we talk through all of the applications and arrive at a decision about who we feel are the strongest in that pool. And we then do a deeper dive into those candidates. Our service providers will conduct pre-interviews with those people. They will call references. We are limited to references that are listed on the application materials or have submitted letters of recommendation, again, due to data privacy law. So those are the folks that we would have visited with to decide upon our final list of recommended candidates. So I did share with the board in an email a highlighted list, and that includes yellow folks highlighted in yellow that we are recommending as finalists. Then there's another tier of folks that we did look deeper into as well, and they are what we call on the bubble. So you should have that list, I believe, in front of you, Chair Boyles. You're going to make some copies of that.
I did.
If you have that, do you have it?
Yeah. So for those of you using the copies I brought, the yellow is the light shading, and then the pink or whatever it is, that other color is the dark shading.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And just remember that this is private data. So those names of all of those applicants are private. So therefore, when you're done today, could you please give them back to Chair Boyles? And then if you would please shred those after the meeting. We want to be very careful because the people who are not selected as finalists to be interviewed, their names cannot go public. Those names are private data forever. So today I'm going to read for you what we call our presentation forms. It's the result of our vetting process. It'll be about each of the 5 candidates that we are recommending for you as finalists. I'm going to read it. It's very generic. There's no identifying information in there. And then I'll turn it back over to the chair to facilitate a conversation with board members about who you'd like to bring in for interviews. I just want to remind you that when you're talking about these folks, please stay with those alphabet identifiers. Candidate A, B, and C. Try also to not use gender pronouns he or she. Please don't discuss where they've worked, where they currently work, basically anything that might identify this person. This is that tricky thing we talked about early in the search where we're balancing the data privacy laws with the open meeting law. So please be real careful when you're talking about these folks that you do stick to the alphabet identifiers and remain as vague as you can. I'm also happy to answer questions within reason and data privacy law about why we're not recommending some of the other candidates in this pool. I'll do my best to tell you why not, but again, I can't share anything specific because anyone who has Google might be able to figure out who I'm speaking about. But I will do my best if you'd like to ask. So ultimately, you will do what is best for Brainerd Public Schools. You'll have our recommendations, and then the chair will facilitate the conversation about who you're leaning toward bringing in. You might find that there's immediate consensus around some candidates. You might find that it does align with MSBA's. You might find out that it does not. You obviously on the sheet here do not have to do what we say. You could accept our recommendations, of course. You could accept some of our recommendations, not all. Or you could choose to not accept any of our recommendations and choose your own slate of folks to bring in. So that's how our process works. We sort of winnow it down from the broad to the more specific, using primarily the leadership profile and the stakeholder summary as our guide for all of that. Also in that packet, there's some material toward the back that includes some sample motions. You don't have to look at all of that right now, but if you'd like to, the sample motion at the back, it says sample motion to offer first round interviews. The main thing I want to point out is that if someone does make a motion to interview candidates A, candidate B, candidate C, that is how you must make the motion. Please do not use names in your motion. Generally speaking, most boards will have a slate and approve it in one fell swoop with one motion. Occasionally, though, there is enough of a difference of opinion about candidates that occasionally a school board will make a motion per candidate. Move to interview candidate A, move to candidate B, etc. But most of the time it's in one motion, but you can do whatever really fits as the conversation unfolds there around these candidates. I've got a copy of the leadership profile right here. I know you've seen a lot of this over the past few weeks. Also, I have a copy of the stakeholder report. So if you get stuck in the deliberations for whatever reason, I will refer you back to some things that we learned in the stakeholder summary report about what matters to your stakeholders, as well as refer you back to that leadership profile again and again to help make your decision. So with that, I am ready to read the presentation forms for the candidates that we are recommending. Are there any questions, however, before I begin? This is a very brief verbal overview of the 5 people that we feel best aligned. Any questions from anyone? Okay, hearing none. So all of these candidates, we are recommending the school board consider interviewing them for the position of superintendent of schools for the 24-25 school year. We have visited with all of them, and each of these individuals have indicated a desire to interview for the position if called by the school board. So I'm going to begin with our first recommendation, which is candidate A. Candidate A's experience includes as a superintendent, principal, assistant principal, activities director, dean of students, and teacher. Their current licenses are as a superintendent, principal, and teacher. And their education includes a specialist degree, a master's, and a Bachelor of Arts. We asked for one very short statement from candidates about their interest in this position. So this section that I read for each of these persons would be in their own words. So the candidate A's reason for interest in this position: Brainerd Public Schools has a reputation for excellence in education. The recently updated 21st century school buildings, outstanding graduation rates, and Lowell Elementary's Blue Ribbon Award-winning school are some of the many highlights Brainerd offers. I am enthusiastic to be a part of a district that is doing great things. References have described candidate A as a driving force for progress in leading a school district forward. They are viewed as hardworking, visionary, and someone who always puts kids first in all decision-making. Individuals for whom candidate A has worked, as well as those they have worked with, view them as being compassionate, a collaborative problem solver, a good listener, a creative thinker, and a relationship builder. Finally, MSBA's recommendation for candidate A is because they are an experienced school leader who has proven successful in all areas of the district's leadership profile. This includes educational finance, innovative leadership, strong instructional background, student-centered decision-making processes, and communication skills that align with a multitude of stakeholder groups across the district. They are hardworking, approachable, and committed to leading through teamwork and collaboration with all parties in the school system. That is candidate A. Next, we are recommending candidate C. Their experience is as a principal, teacher, dean of students, technology integrationist, coordinator, a teacher, and a coach. Their current licenses are as a superintendent, principal, and teacher. Their education includes a specialist degree, master's, and Bachelor of Arts. Candidate C's interest in the position is because my skills and experiences create a beneficial match that will help promote the values of the Warrior Way. I have been selective in applying for positions that are both aligned with my skills and are located where my family and I can become active members of the community. I am genuinely excited about this match and look forward to the opportunity to help the Brainerd Public Schools educate and inspire each student by providing innovative opportunities to create lifelong success. References describe candidate C as innovative, collaborative, caring, and as a leader possessing the skills to implement creative solutions and who is committed to communicating a clear vision. Candidate C is described by a supervisor as possessing good instincts and being very adept at forming positive relationships with everyone in the school and the community. And they are widely viewed as an honest relationship builder with a strong moral compass. MSBA's recommendation for candidate C is because they have been a visible and trusted member of the community and school system, qualities needed as a superintendent. They place a high priority on school culture, focusing on listening and accepting the viewpoints of all stakeholders. Candidate C has demonstrated a leadership style that focuses on the formation and development of teams, using them to create and advance goals for the district's future, and they are known as an inclusive, collaborative, and creative educational leader. That was C. We're also recommending you consider candidate E. Their experience is as a superintendent, assistant superintendent, principal, special education coordinator, and teacher. Their current licenses are as a superintendent, principal, and director of special education. And their education includes a doctorate, specialist degree, master's, and Bachelor of Arts. The candidate's reason for interest in this position: Brainerd Public Schools is a district focused on the community, and it places students at the heart of everything. These values speak to me and are why I want to be the next superintendent. As an experienced, collaborative, instructional, and financial leader with a strong background in similar sized districts, I bring a unique perspective. I will be able to continue to support and lead the district to a place where the board and community want it to continue to sustain and where it wants it to grow. References describe candidate E. They have skills that are best by stating that their passion for supporting students, dedication to fostering inclusive and equitable learning environments, and a collaborative approach to leadership make them an invaluable asset to any educational institution or organization. Descriptors used to describe this candidate include collaborative, decisive, experienced, trustworthy, strategic, thoughtful, and courageous. MSBA's recommendation for candidate E. They distinguish themselves as an analytic leader with the ability to synthesize large quantities of information in order to make decisions and to move quickly to correct inadequacies within a school system. This candidate's inclusive approach to decision-making fosters innovation and ensures the voices of stakeholders are heard and valued. In addition, candidate E has extensive experience in instruction and in managing school finances. Candidate E. All right, we are also recommending candidate H. Candidate H's experience is as a superintendent, teacher, director of community ed and activity directors, director of community services, and supervisor of adult basic education. Candidate H's current licenses are as a superintendent, principal, community ed director, and adult basic ed teacher. Their education includes a doctorate, master's, and a Bachelor of Arts. Candidate H's reason for interest in this position: Brainerd Public Schools exhibits excellence through its award-winning schools, the many opportunities for students to engage in activities, and its mission to ensure all students have lifelong success. I want to be a part of a district that strives for excellence while looking for ways to improve how it serves students. Brainerd Public Schools is doing just that. I believe my skills and abilities and my years of experience will make me the right superintendent to continue this positive work. Themes of references for candidate H include teamwork, collaboration, visibility, trust, communication, and perseverance. One reference made it clear this candidate ensures that everyone at the table has a voice and be invited to share their views. One reference noted candidate H's proven track record of fostering positive change within educational institutions, while another mentioned this candidate's skills in fiscal responsibility and effective resource management. MSBA's recommendation for candidate H is because we believe candidate H is worthy of strong consideration due to their numerous successful experiences which demonstrate expertise in fulfilling the profile established by this board. Candidate H has demonstrated success in financial management, inclusivity, and strategic planning, and is widely lauded for school board relationships, communication skills, problem solving, community relations, and having a collaborative approach to leadership and team building. Finally, the fifth person that we are recommending is candidate I. Their experience includes being a director of teaching and learning, a principal, a teacher, an activities director, technology coordinator, and data specialist. Their current licenses are as a principal, a teacher, and they will acquire a superintendent license before July 1st. Their education includes a master's and a bachelor's degree. Candidate I's reason for interest in this position: I have spent the majority of my career in leadership or in supporting and coaching leaders. I am now ready to lead the exciting and challenging work of meeting the needs of students, families, staff, and community. The core values, goals, and outcomes of Brainerd Public Schools align to what I have worked for in my educational career. I see this as a great fit where I can serve to further the innovative and successful work that has been realized by the district and community. References describe candidate I as showing exceptional leadership qualities. This candidate has an inclusive leadership style, empowering others to contribute their best, while promoting a sense of teamwork and camaraderie. Candidate I demonstrates excellent communication skills and strong skills in the areas of collaboration, technology, data analysis, and leadership. This candidate's immediate supervisor said that they have developed an effective team atmosphere. And finally, MSBA's recommendation for candidate I: is that in all of their leadership experiences, they have exemplified the personal characteristics identified in the stakeholder engagement survey as important that the new superintendent must possess. This candidate is honest, inclusive, transparent, and cares about people. They will focus on building trust and relationships by being an active listener and working hard to inform and include all stakeholder voices across the district. Those are the 5 we are recommending, but again, it's completely up to the board. So I'll turn this back over to Chair Boyles to facilitate the conversation. And again, please just be very careful not to divulge private data if at all possible. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Barb. It's kind of like the dating game, almost like if they like long walks on the beach or mimosas or something, it'd be kind of nice to know too.
It's a song, Kevin.
Right, yeah, exactly. Rupert Holmes. Anyway, Barb, you can jump in if you think there's a best practice that maybe we could adopt here, but in my mind, maybe the best course of action would be to start with the 2 that were completely not on the bubble, completely not recommended by MSBA, and just make sure we have consensus that we do not want to interview those folks. Then we can start to pare the list down from there. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
All right, so if
Talking
we,
about 4.
I'm talking about candidates B and F.
Oh, just those first 2?
Yep.
Okay, yep, okay.
So I think we just get those off the table, then we know we're in sync with what MSBA is offering up. Then we can move on to the bubble people and have a little bit of discourse about that. Or we could go to the other end and look for candidates that maybe do a straw poll and see if
So
we have
how do we-
consensus.
We just all agree that we're fine with.
Well,
not
what I would say
moving
is,
out then?
as to candidate B, did anybody have a strong feeling that they would like to interview candidate B?
Go on, Ben. Go ahead.
I had candidate B as one of my people to look at.
Okay. So then I guess the fundamental question is, do you want to make a case for candidate B, or are you good that candidate ended up not being part of what we'll consider? All while being very vague.
I understand. I'm listening right now.
I thought candidate B had great paperwork and did a really nice job of putting together list of experiences and mission and focus. But it was very helpful having candidate B vetted to hear some additional behind the scenes information, which helped me to then be okay with not including that person in our interview process.
I would agree with that.
And I also saw that and would agree with that as well.
Okay.
So then we're okay with that? Move forward, okay?
Yes.
See, look at that, we were at 9, now we're at 8, look at this. We're all gonna be home in an hour. All right, then let's move on to candidate F, as in Frank. Once again, did anybody have candidate F as listed as someone that they would want the board to interview? All right, see, that was an easy one then. All right, so then I think it's just really moving on to candidates. Well, maybe from there, since MSBA has at minimum on the bubble or recommended each one of these candidates, maybe we could go candidate by candidate and just do a quick head count. Everybody gets, keep track of, would you want to interview them or not? I gotta think about how the numbers work on this. Barb, any thoughts? What do we do? Give everybody?
So just to clarify for the board that these are in completely random order. They are not in alphabetical order, so it's totally just a popcorn toss-up. So what can sometimes happen is you could just ask each board member, but again, it's up to you. Who were the ones that, now that you've heard from MSBA and you've seen what they're recommending, who would you like to interview? And you could do that by each board member saying, well, I'd like to interview C, E, and I, or something like that. Or
Right.
you could do what you just suggested, Chair Boyles, in terms of how many would like to bring in candidate A or candidate C, etc. Whatever works best, I would support as long as it's vague.
Okay,
Could we do, like, we, in our head, think about our top 6, and if there's one we could take out of the running
Mm-hmm.
and see if there's alignment on that?
Sure, why not? The other thing, I mean, we could
Go
use,
ahead,
you could,
Barb. She's,
go ahead, Barb.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, the only point I want to make is I don't want everyone to feel like they have to identify 6, because you could choose to interview 1, 2, or 3 if you'd like. So maybe just however many you want to interview, because if there's people who are not interested in interviewing more than 3 or 4, I just don't want them to feel pressured to suggest some additional names that they're not real keen on.
I guess that was my question, is who's got 6 people if they'd wanna interview? Like, I don't,
I don't.
so, and you don't either.
No.
So none of us have 6, so there's really no reason to
Pick 6.
pick 6. So I like the other style that you were going down. But I kinda think Barb's idea is not bad. Like, just go, like, who do we like, and then we're gonna find, I bet there's gonna be one of them that we all wanna interview.
Yeah.
Then I'll
Maybe that's
we'll
the way to
have
go,
one
just-
on our list.
Thumbs
Yeah,
up,
let's
thumbs
do it.
down on them. I mean, you can vote for as many as you want. But since nobody said they had 6, I would not expect to see more than 5 for any board member.
Who's gonna
but
keep
yeah,
track?
I will.
Okay, so like, you're just gonna ask me who I want, and I'm just gonna give you the however
Well, no,
many.
I'm gonna go candidate by candidate, and you give me a thumbs up or
She
a
said
thumbs
to
down.
just go, school board member by school board member.
Okay, that's fine. Yep, go ahead.
I get to go first?
Yes, you get to go first.
Beat you. One win for the day. I'm A and H are the only 2 that I really feel passionate about, and I guess C is, I know that Barb thinks a lot about C and the school board association does, so I guess I'd be fine with looking at C too.
Okay,
So A, C, and H are my 3.
okay. Michelle,
I am C, H, I, and A. Not necessarily in order.
gotcha. And now, you're including the on-the-bubble people in this too, right? Not just the,
Yeah,
Just the people we wanna see.
yep, okay. I was just making sure you knew that you could pick from everybody, but the
Yep,
2 we've already
yep,
eliminated.
yep.
I forgot to specify that. All right, for my part, then I am, A. H. And oddly enough, I'm D.
that's not odd.
All right, Sarah, you're up.
I am E, H, G, and D.
Okay. Randy.
I am A, E, and H.
And John.
I am A, E, G, H.
Okay, that helps a lot. So we solved one end of it. All 6 of us went for candidate H as a definitive talk to, so 1's solved for.
Doesn't matter.
And then we have 5 for A. That feels like as close to consensus as we would get, but we can talk about that more. I mean, for now, maybe we could just take H and set that candidate aside as a definite and then kind of go from there. Let me score them up real quick though, but A had 5, H had 6, E had 3. And anything else have more than 2? I see 2 Gs, 2 Ds, 1 I,
How many Cs?
2.
What did candidate, E have?
3. It would be, if you're ranking them in order of votes gotten, they would be 3rd after H and A.
How many B get?
B got,
None. B got eliminated.
You gotta
Well, he-
No, I thought
Yeah,
somebody
he's-
voted for
I
B.
thought somebody voted for
D.
B.
Oh, D, not B.
yeah, D got 2. We have a bunch with 2. We have D with 2, we have I with 1, we have G with 2, we have C with 2.
I can get a vote there. I don't wanna talk to Hagler.
All right, so let's go, maybe let's just focus on H, A, and E, since they got half the board or more.
How many did I get?
1.
I can, tell you one thing, I have no problem with adding E to my list. That makes it easier,
Can,
certainly qualified.
Michelle, you had some?
I just, maybe a little discussion about how those that put that person in their top came to that conclusion.
Yeah, of course, we can do that. I think if we take, since everybody had H, or H, we can set H to the side, right?
Perfect, got it.
And then since A had only, Sarah? If you have any comments on why that person wouldn't be in your top, maybe that would be useful. Otherwise, in my mind, since we can talk to as many as 6, if we want to, with 5 votes, I don't know why we wouldn't put that person in the bucket and save some time, since 5 or 6 of us were there. Does that make sense?
I'm fine with that.
Are you, okay?
They were on the bubble for me. I just didn't.
Okay.
they
That's
didn't
kinda
make
like E
the
was for
top
me.
4,
It's like-
yeah.
Yeah, E is for me too, and we can talk about that some more.
would
I have-
appreciate a
I
little
have
bit of.
a lot of interest in E, but a lot of anxiety about it as well.
Mr. Chair, could you give the numbers again, please? I-
Absolutely.
each
Hang on a
candidate
second,
is-
John. I'm gonna tabulate this up real quick and just get these 2 circled and get them to the side. All right, so if we're talking about C, D, E, G, and I. So E got 4, DJ added E to his list.
Okay,
So that gives us 4 for E, that's the 3rd place vote getter. Then after that are D, G, and C, all with 2. And then I, D, G, C,
E. Okay,
and then I had 1 vote.
Delta called Charlie. Yeah.
Did you say I, possibly I?
No, I added E.
No, but before, did you say I?
Well, I always goes before C, except after E.
I don't like that.
Okay, okay, I thought, so I was the only odd one. Okay,
I kinda want to talk to F.
Okay, so we've got 2 selected, 2 eliminated. We have these 5 so in alphabetical order by candidate, it's C, D, E, G, and I.
So is there a, I mean, I don't wanna shortcut this deal, and Barb, you can straighten me out at any time, but is there a certain number we feel like we need to get to?
Not at all. We could come out of here with 2 and go right into whatever. I mean, I think we all feel like we have more, each one of us has more than 2 we'd like to talk to, right? So, I mean, in talking to Barb, when she and I were speaking about this, Barb, I'll put words in your mouth and you can take them back out if you want to, but we feel like that magic number is probably between 4 and 5. We could do 6. We have a schedule that's built for 6.
We have a schedule that's built for 3 as well.
Yep. Yeah, so it's not incumbent upon us. It's just like, that's where I think dialogue.
Show is a real thing, like, we
Yeah.
don't need to,
Well, the other thing is to wantonly just interview these people for the sake of filling a roster of interviews. Now, what happens is they come forward for a job, and if we weren't serious about selecting them, we just wanted to have another person to talk to for
to make it
texture,
look good.
right? Then here they are, another person that went up and didn't get selected. Because that flavors it. I will tell you, that's one of my reservations about one of the candidates is they have been part of a couple of other searches and not been the one chosen or not made it to finalist. So something in the due diligence process that other districts didn't, but, you know, that's only one way to look at it. The other thing could be just in line with what that particular district was looking for. So I think we could get into, I mean, to me, I guess where I would go is I feel like I, with only 1 vote, is the opposite of A. In the sense that, did anybody else have I as a bubble person that they would seriously consider? Michelle, I think you were I liked the person. That particular candidate has no superintendent experience and only really worked with very, very small budget stuff. So that was kind of what knocked him out for me.
And I am fine if that's, I mean, that was my bubble person, actually, so.
The other thing, Mr. Chair, on I is, what I noticed was, the start date was 2025.
It's messed up. It was a typo.
Was that a typo?
Yep,
Okay,
Barb checked.
Yep.
2024.
we talked about that, but I wanted to have it clarified then.
Okay.
Okay, but, so I'm gonna
I thought
focus
that
on you,
too.
Michelle, since you were the one that had this person on the list.
Yep,
You're okay then if we elect not to interview that
I am
person?
very okay with that.
Okay, so there's 3. So that gets us down to 3 candidates that split 2-2-2, which are D, G, and C, and then E, which got 4 votes. And I'm looking at those 3, C, I guess it's C, G, E. I mean, I feel like that's the last ones we have to decide from that group, in my mind. Who do we have that's not for E? Michelle did not have E, and I did not have E. And I already kind of stated my case. E has a wealth of experience.
I didn't have E either.
Well, yeah, but you kind of
I know,
had it.
I did, I
Yeah,
can't, you know,
And
Caved in.
yeah, it's kind of my style.
I just
Caver.
loved all of the experience, the incredible experience of E, but felt like I wanted a little more discussion from all of you. If you were supportive of that person, what were some of the qualifications or characteristics that helped you get to that point?
Yeah, I mean, let's just go person by person. DJ, you kind of added that person to your list. What, the person was obviously a bubble person. What are the things you see that you would want to talk to that person?
Well, you guys are gonna find this hard to believe, but I don't really think I know everything. And so she was not even on my radar. E was not on my radar. Here we go. So E was not on my radar. Well, then Barb convinced me that E should be on my radar. And then, I went back in, dug around, and then we got the response on what happened in the past. And so I didn't have her on my original list, like you just saw. I just had 3 on there. And I just thought if it made it easier for everybody, it's an interview. It doesn't mean we're offering.
Agreed,
So,
agreed.
I don't wanna close my eyes. Maybe you guys know more than I do, so
Okay.
the school board thinks so, association, it's like,
Okay, John?
On E?
Yeah,
Well, I read somewhere where, when we get down to some discussion like this, that we should maybe just talk about the strengths that like I had E, the strengths that we had, we
Yep.
saw in E, and I wanna make clear that we as board members also saw a lot more than just the survey. We were privileged to see a lot of information, that we all based our decisions on. Including a great job by MSBA vetting out social media, all of it. I mean, not just resumes, not just application letters, not just reference letters, all of it. So that, I wanted to make sure that the public knows that we are looking, we, the board members, 6 board members, have privy to other information that, maybe they didn't see or they don't know about or whatever. And that's true with everything right now, okay? But E, in my opinion, some of the things that jumped out at me, E has a background in finance, strategic plan, trustworthy, visible, hard worker. E also talked about zero-based budgeting, and that concerns me a bit, because when I was in the legislature, we talked a lot about zero-based budgeting, and I want to have more information on that. But my point there is, E has been very involved in the budgeting process. As Director Brecken said, E has a ton of experience in a ton of variety of areas. I can go on more than that, but I'll just stop there and let others include.
okay. Randy, how about you?
Yeah, I was impressed with the fact that she, you know, was in a fairly large district,
E,
E,
E.
E. And, yeah, I already broke the rules, but.
So did I. E.
Leave it to you
E.
two.
You don't talk, so you're never gonna screw up.
The experience was there, there's no question, the education. But one concern I had about education, it was emphasized in just one area in education. And the answers she gave to MSBA, he gave what I thought was an incomplete answer to all of the social media issues that had arisen with candidate E.
But Randy, did you have candidate E as one of your top choices?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had, I mean, I
Okay,
think candidate E in my mind was worthy of an interview.
Okay.
Yep. But there are, I mean, I do have concerns. And if candidate E is not chosen as a finalist, hey, I'm not going to take my bat and ball and go home, so to speak, so.
Okay, Sarah, you're up.
I too had candidate E as part of my top 4. The keywords that stuck out for me, and Barb mentioned some of these, were courageous, gets things done and moves quickly, voices at the table are valued, strategic, strong finance skills. Those things all resonated with me. Enough to overcome some of the other things.
I only had 3 when we went around and did the thing. If I would have had to have picked, if somebody would have required a 4th, I would have picked E. How I view E is high risk, high reward. In that there's a lot of things about this person's background and capabilities that are significant, maybe too significant. And then for me, the bigger thing is I was trying to look at these against the stakeholder survey too. That's kind of one of those things where, I'm trying to look for that community alignment piece, and I think I was having a harder time. But I would say the same thing for candidate D, which I did put as one of my top 3. So that doesn't have to be a deal breaker. So I guess if there was a consensus that we feel that candidate E should be one of the, at minimum 4 that we interview, I would have no objection to that being one of the 2 people that didn't list that person. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, if you were saying, okay, we would like to interview this person, talk me out of it, I don't have a lot to talk you out of it. I just didn't have that person ranked highly for a variety of different reasons, comparative to the other 3 that I picked.
at the end of the day, I guess candidate E, there still seem to be some unresolved issues in my mind about some of the struggles that they experienced. But
Well, it's a very complex candidate with a lot of different experience and stuff. We had a handful of those, that there's a lot to weed through. But, I mean, with 4 pro and you and I being the only outliers, I mean, I have no objections to adding candidate E to the
Nor do
interview
I.
list.
Mr. Chair, well, one of the things that I didn't say that as I was just reviewing my notes again, was candidate E had, I believe, the largest number of large districts and students and staff of any of them. So when we looked at the whole pool, that's one of the things I look for is, not necessarily that's the best thing, but candidate E has the experience of a larger district.
No, agreed. And when I was doing the original, when we first got these packets and we opened them up, it jumped right off the page, right? And then you're like, wow. And then there were a couple that were like that.
And didn't candidate E have the largest budget of all of the
Yes.
other
Yeah, for sure.
candidates too that
Yes.
was managed? Yeah. Okay.
All right, so then I'm looking for just consensus to move candidate E onto the interview list. Okay, so now we've solved for that piece. And what we're down to basically is looking at candidates D, C, D, and G. Theoretically, we could choose to interview all three of them. We'd only be at 6. But given that none of them got half the board in the first round of voting, okay, this is another one of those best practice things. Do we take these 3 in isolation and have us rebalance and revote? Each one of us pick like 1 or 2, two that we would interview and see how that breaks down? Maybe then that would let us eliminate one of them, and then we can, does that make sense? Barb, is on my gibberish, or does that make sense?
So
Okay,
you're gonna take those 3 away? Are you
so
gonna-
what I would
are
say
you
is
gonna
you're
put I
looking at
back in?
just in isolation, C, D, and G, and each one of us can pick 2 of the 3. So everybody do that for a minute while we play the Jeopardy music.
We're picking 2 from which again?
C.
C, D, G.
We don't have to pick 2.
You can pick as many as 2.
Yeah.
Just don't give me
We
3.
don't have to though.
Nope, pick 1 if you want to pick 1. That might
thank
make it
you.
actually even easier.
Yeah.
Or, Mr. Chair, how about also if those that had either of these, any of these candidates as a choice, if they spoke to the strengths that they saw, well, that's the same way, I guess.
Sure, we
Okay,
can when it
yeah.
breaks down. I mean, we're not going to eliminate
Okay,
that person. We
yeah.
can still have a dialogue, right? It at least just gives us a framework to talk about what, when you view them without the background noise of those other 6 candidates in the mix, right? Now we can isolate them. All right, so let's start at the other end. You're up, John.
Well, and the other thing that I'm thinking about is, what Director Dollinger said, do we need to go to a 4th candidate,
Not necessarily.
okay?
I mean, we
Let's play it
continue
out.
to have
Let's
that
play it
dialogue.
out. All right, let's play it out.
And I think that's why I like this exercise, because somebody might jump out here that gives us an easy 4th.
Okay,
But they might not. We may be back at an even split between the 3, and if it is, then we'll deal with those as they happen. So you're up, John, 1 or 2 that you've got.
all right, I'm going to, so I'm just telling you which candidate I would like to see.
You can interview 2 of these 3. You're
those
you're the
3.
king.
G,
G only?
yep,
Okay. Randy?
1 for me, that would be candidate C.
Okay. Sarah?
I'm gonna be the outlier here and do 2. I would do D and G.
Okay. I am a C. Michelle?
I am a C and D.
Okay. And DJ?
I'm a C.
All right, so what that did was that popped C out from the pack,
It popped C, oh, as.
out from the group.
Yeah, okay.
So C got 4 votes,
Okay.
G got 2, and D got 2. So now that frames a dialogue. We don't have to choose to just interview C, but clearly there's more board consensus around C than there is D or G. So now, maybe, John, to your point, maybe start with you, DJ, on C, talk about why.
I think that, well, first of all, Barb, the School Board Association definitely is high on C. At least that was my take on it. I wasn't quite as high as Barb was on C. And then if you look at the history, similar size markets, kind of an up and comer. You know, I think we would be the first super job that they had, but it's kind of been just like whole career has been going that way. And I think it'd be interesting to, you know, I had them on my first list, I guess. I had C on my first list again. It's a hard deal. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's the things that interest me. I can tell you the other side of it if you want, but I don't think that's what we're doing
We'll stick
today.
if we put them on the list, why? How about you, Michelle?
So I liked the experience, like DJ was referring to, kind of that trajectory of starting as a teacher, educator, and then moving up through the ranks. I liked some of the key things I picked out were fosters collaboration, nurtures relationships, promotes empathy, visible and trusted member of the school community, inclusive and collaborative. So I just felt like this is somebody who gets along well with others.
Okay. And Randy, you had C?
Yeah, in my notes here, 4C, as Michelle just noted, he's visible, he was in the community, and he,
It's hard.
yeah, candidate C is inclusive and collaborative as well. And I believe the school district is similar in size to what we currently have as well, so.
All right, so I was the fourth C vote. What I would say is I echo what you guys already said. There's not much to retread there. And then I'll flip it to go to the concerns part by talking about that. I mean, I think community-wise, I think C would be a good fit in Brainerd because of the area that individual currently is in is not dissimilar to this area. I think it would be an easy transition from that perspective. I think the layers of experience are great. I'm one of those, when MSBA did the original survey, previous superintendent experience is important to me. I'm not completely married to it, but I don't know that in my mind, I gotta get past my own, perhaps it's a bias that Brainerd as a school district of this size is maybe not the best first superintendent position. Maybe a little bit different with Superintendent Hahn because she was the assistant superintendent, really doing a whole lot of stuff and really knew the district well. That would be an exception to that rule. I didn't have any issues with that. So that would be literally the only concern that I have about C was no previous superintendent experience. Just really principal was the pinnacle of their experience to this point. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I didn't have C as my pick this round, but they make the list for me. I'm intrigued enough. The lack of experience was the only mark that I had. And on paper, it's hard to make up for that. In person, I think you have an easier time making up for not having the experience. So I wouldn't be in a hard no on that for sure.
And that leaves John.
My concerns with candidate C were that candidate C did not, in my opinion, in the written application and resume, talk about a lot of individual leadership examples of their own. They didn't, as you all have said, they lacked experience in the superintendency position. That candidate C also, in my opinion, lacked development of initiatives and innovation. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right, so we have essentially 4 Cs and 2 non-Cs. Now we're at that point where we have 3 that we're going to interview for sure. C would be a potential 4th interview that we would do. I guess the question specifically for Sarah and John, what do you think? Starting with John.
And Michelle?
No, I wanted.
No, Michelle had C.
I had C.
On the second go around.
Well, I'm just saying. We
Oh,
don't
if you wanna
have
go all the way
we don't
back to
have
first go
interview-
around? Yeah.
We don't have to interview 4 people. We could interview 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
We could interview 1 person. We could say we don't see anybody in here that's gonna meet our standards and direct Barb to go onto an interim situation. So I don't think we need the exercise, unless someone really feels passionate about it. I put C on my list the first time and it only got 2. So is there really any chance that if we drag C here, you know, they've got whatever, I don't know what they have, but they've got job commitments, da-da-da-da-da-da, to get the C to be here on Thursday. Is it really worth it if 4 of us already don't really think C's qualified, or is this just, I mean, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't. I had C on my list from the start. I'm just, we don't need to force ourselves into taking more interviews if they're not gonna get across the finish line anyhow. You know, I'm not worried about my time, cause I'm planning on being here both days. But for these other folks that have to, you know, commute a ways, is it really worth it for them if it's just a fishing expedition, or it's just something that make ourselves feel like we put more effort in, you know, and interviewed more people? I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, let's think about it a little bit, because if 2 out of 6, it's only a third, probably not gonna impress other people that didn't go that direction in the first round, you know, I don't know.
So I'll dovetail on something Sarah said. Your logic is actually correct, and I think we need to apply that with the rest of this discussion, especially if we opt to interview a 4th and we're looking at a 5th or a 6th. I think I tried to allude to that in the beginning. We don't want to drag these people into an interview where they're just sort of a last minute ad. Now, I will say this. Less is more is good enough, but last time when I went through this process, there were, I forget how many candidates, 6, I guess. And I pre-ranked them before we ever interviewed them.
6 that you guys interviewed? Mm-hmm. Got it.
And what I would tell you is that even having gone through the process to the point where we sort of are now, I had them in a certain order.
And it came out completely different.
Then once they physically sat in that chair and talked to us, people moved around in that order
Of
based
course.
on the interview.
Of course they did.
And that Sarah kind of alluded to that, you know, that you don't, right now we're seeing them on paper, we aren't seeing them in the hot seat.
Okay.
And so I think, I'm pretty comfortable with 4, just because it gives us another contrast to look at. And I don't think we're wasting that person's time, because they could come in here, C could come in here and light the room on fire, and we'd all be like, you know, like, here we go.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard deal, because I could throw 2 more on there.
Well,
That you could
almost
just
the
look
entire
at,
list
like
you
you're
could.
saying,
You
that's
don't-
what I'm saying. It's
Yeah, you
like
don't know who you left on
trying
the
to
cutting
whittle
room
this
floor.
down.
Well, and I think that some of that, while it's our choice to make, it's our choice to give them an opportunity to. If we see something there in the paper interview that intrigues us,
Look at 'em.
seeing them in person could give a whole different dimension.
And the other thing about C is, C's not an existing superintendent, so this plays in the favor, in my opinion. In the sense that I don't think it's a detriment to that person to come interview in Brainerd, because it's a leg up. In other words, the people back in that person's home school district aren't gonna look down on them for having tried to get a superintendent position somewhere. They're having that name public. Like, I'd be scared to put some of these other names public if we weren't keen on them, you know what I
Gotcha.
mean? And so that's kind of where my head was at. In fact, it might be a feather in the cap to actually have gotten a good, let's say a person advances as a finalist. Well, now all of a sudden they can parlay that or leverage that into catapult them to an interview with another district or something. So there could be a lot of positives to it from where I sit. And then, of course, I would lean into the fact that MSBA's crack team of experts actually picked this person as well. That,
They did.
you know, so I have to sometimes subscribe to the idea that collectively they probably know more than I do about personalities and stuff, and they've had actual verbal conversations with these
Yeah, let's
people, which we haven't
clarify
had.
what they know more than you do about things. They know more
Lots
about
of stuff.
personalities, let me think, we got something else, they must know something more than I do. Yeah, I agree. I'm good with C.
So my recommendation from myself would be that we interview C. Does anybody object to that?
I don't.
Let me just add,
Sure.
and it struck a chord with me when you and Sarah talked about, okay, interviewing the six was it last time? And they performed differently, obviously, they performed differently verbally rather than written wise, and we all understand that. So what if we went to 6 and looked at all the 2s, the people that had 2s as well, and didn't bring in 6, 5, and 4 together and 2, 2, 2 together, but staggered them to some extent, however we could. And I'm just throwing this out as a brainstorming suggestion. I'm very much okay with Director Donlinger has said, in my opinion, I'm okay with the three that have been 6, 5, and 4. That's my opinion, but I'm not opposed to, also interviewing C, candidate C. But I just throw that out as a brainstorming idea,
Did you say you're not opposed to candidate C?
not at all.
Well, no, I think the crux of what you were saying was that you're advocating for potentially doing 6 interviews.
Correct.
Yep.
And, you know, my criteria that I looked at as I'm trying to make my decisions is, you know, how they matched our district, what we need in our district, what the 6 of us have talked about the last 2 years in our district. That was what the shareholders, the stakeholders said, you know, out of the survey. That was my, compass to use in my decisions. And in my opinion, the candidates that had 6, 5, and 4 are the candidates that hit all of those. I don't think the 2's doing but, like you said, maybe personally wise, maybe face to face, maybe, you know, they'll blow us away, I don't know. But I just throw that out again as an
Okay.
idea.
But it really comes down to the profiles of D and G, right? So, maybe I'll start this, let's talk about D for a second. I was one of 2, Sarah and I had D on our initial list. And I did it to add complexion to the dialogue, in the sense that I like that person as a candidate. I think there's some non-conventional experience there, and some other attributes, that would be interesting. But again, it would be kind of high risk, high reward. So I did it more as a discussion point because I was really having the trouble getting past the 2 that I really liked. And it was, you know, getting to 3, 4, and 5 was really hard for me. I found 2 that I really liked out of this whole pool, and everybody else I was kind of like, yeah, but there's that, but yeah, but there's that. And this person, I'm not super married to the idea that we would need to interview this person. And keep in mind that any of these people might be from out of state. And if we dragged them in here for an interview on the idea that 2 of us voted to interview them, could be problematic too for some of these candidates that are left, right? So from my mind, I don't know that D merits an interview based on the fact that we didn't have much consensus around it. But I'm open to have the dialogue about D, because I know there's probably others that maybe had some interest in D, but just didn't rank up there for a variety of reasons. So maybe we'll start this way and go this way with Sarah first on D.
Yeah, same, and I had this person on my list as well, just because I was intrigued by the experiences and the lens and the sheer volume of experiences and go-get-itness that I saw in the candidates' paperwork. I was intrigued enough that I added this person to my list, given their experiences that they had in leadership and in leading change and in turning some things around and in some of the intentional work, I would say, that they've done in their past.
All right, Randy.
Candidate D? Yeah, very, very intriguing. Had a lot of experience outside of the education area as well. So that's what, and then you mesh those talents together with what you would expect to see in a superintendent. You know, there was definitely some good meshing between those 2 experiences, and but this person was not on my list.
Okay, maybe a little bit more about why that person wasn't on the list? If you're comfortable, if not, we can pass it to John.
Yeah, no, it just wasn't a comfort level that I had.
Okay. John?
Candidate D, are we talking the strengths or the weaknesses?
Pros, cons, whatever you want to talk about. We're
Okay,
just trying
very
to,
good.
we're trying to see if somebody saw something the rest of us didn't see, or vice
Candidate
versa.
D, most of the other candidates had some referendum experience. Candidate D had no referendum experience. None. And that's, in my opinion, that's very important. All six of us have talked about how important that is. I'm not sure Kennedy has a superintendent license. Barb, can you help me with that?
He does not.
Kennedy?
Not yet, but it should be in the works and complete by July or August at the latest. So there is some licensure questions there, which is part of why they're on the bubble for us versus a full endorsement, is the questions around licensing.
I don't like the word should be, but okay. Kennedy made some good statements, but didn't show real good examples of their statements. And like Randy said, RG said, Dr. Heidman said, lots of experience in a lot of different areas. But those are some red flags that jumped up at me.
Michelle?
Basically, I can echo what everybody else is saying, lots of varied experience. It didn't appear to me that this candidate had a lot of classroom experience. Kind of jumped into more director experiences. But I was concerned about the licensure issue, and when Barb and I talked, it would be July, August, or even, maybe even September, and so I didn't want to have a gap for us. So that was probably my main motivating factor in not having that person at the top of my list.
Barb, I've got a question for you. Can Brainerd schools go a month without a superintendent, or is that against the law?
You're required to have a superintendent because you have a classified secondary school by law. However, there are times where there's a gap because a superintendent might have an accident or something happens where there's no associate superintendent to step in terms of chain of command. So there are times where there's a gap in superintendencies. Now, I would say if it's a planned gap and you know you could go without one or will go without one for a month or 2 months or 3 months, then I would suggest contracting with a superintendent who is licensed in order to sign the documents that might be required to be signed during those 2 or 3 months. And you certainly could do that. You could buy their time from another district. You could contract with someone who's retired on a daily basis or an hourly basis. There are people willing to step in and sort of bridge you through until you have your own superintendent. But you could contract with someone as needed on a daily or a monthly or weekly basis. So that would be okay.
What happened, Barb, if there's someone in the district in Brainerd that does have a superintendent's license, but that does not intend to use it, would that be viable?
That is sometimes the bridge as well. You simply need to arrive at terms to compensate them for the time they spend as acting superintendent. I wouldn't call them an interim in that case. I'd say that they'd be an acting superintendent until you have a superintendent. But if they're licensed and can sign all of those documents and they can be the identified official with authority with the state of Minnesota for a few months, that is an option some districts have used, is an internal person who fills 2 roles for a short bit, obviously is compensated for the additional work as an acting superintendent. Great questions. Thank you.
So when I went through these resumes, questions, the whole deal, my number one person was D. Without a doubt, it wasn't even close to me. He comes from, I think it's a bonus, and this is where we differ, that he doesn't come out of the classroom side. It's more of this is a huge business. It's $120 million, $122 million. I think 1,200 employees, 6,100 students. It's a big deal. It's the 33rd biggest school district in the state. So I liked all that. And then the more I dug and dug and dug on YouTube and here and there and all these different places, candidate D seems to me to be very distracted. And I don't have much interest in putting somebody in the position that we're in, which I don't think's death-defying or anything. I don't think the Brainerd schools are going down tomorrow, but I think there's some important decisions that need to be made. And I don't think you can be distracted like that. And so those distractions, the more I dug, the more I saw about the hobby and less about the work. And by the time I was done, I was about turned right off on him, on candidate D. So that's kind of what happened, cause that was my number one, for sure. So that's why I made my decision.
All right, so the only, like I said, D was bubble for me as well. And I think listening to everybody else's comments, and then to me, I wanted to kind of get us down. I didn't want to take all 9 and try to overlay them against the stakeholder survey. It seemed like too much work.
Right,
But as we're finalizing them and I line them up, right, and I start to look at it that way, I kind of feel like there's a misalignment to some extent there because of what DJ was talking about, I think. So for me, I mean, I'm not gonna retract D from when I originally said it. I still
No.
think there was a lot of high risk, high reward. But in my mind, as I was putting D on my list, it was, this is somebody I would be interested in talking to, not necessarily do I see this person as a superintendent here, but that it was an interesting contrast to, it was kind of like when we were naming the Performing Arts Center, it was like, can you give me something other than, but, what was it, Heidi, blush and bashful and pink, right? We got all these variations of the same thing instead of different things to look at.
right.
It's, because it's a lot easier when you have some stark contrasts and it makes you think of things, so I'm fine if we don't choose to interview D, if you are.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, so that brings us down to one candidate, and that is G. And I let everybody else start, so I'll start with G. G, of the 9, I still have ranked as number 8. This person, the school district that they're in my opinion, way too small. And then there were some other issues. I think those have been kind of answered, at least to where I would be okay if I didn't have other issues. So that's kind of where I ended up with G as never being on my list. Let's start back down with DJ again and go around the table.
I would just echo the same thing, awfully small. And then, from what I found is shrinking pretty fast. So a lot of dissension, students, teachers. See if there's some problems there that it probably has nothing to do with candidate G, but I don't want to gamble on it. So that's where I'm at.
Michelle?
Yeah, this person did not make my list at all. However, after having visited with Barb, took a little closer look, was able to kind of work through some of the issues. But a comment that Barb made that kind of stuck with me is strong and independent, which we appreciate, but kind of takes a hard line, and I'm not, and I know you need to do that eventually, but there's a process to working with others that I wasn't sure I was seeing.
Okay, Sarah?
I too was intrigued by the experience and some of the comments from the reference letters and so forth, and some of their own comments dang it, about their experiences, but they were on the bubble for me. They weren't a high yes.
Candidate G was never on my list. It is a small school, and there were some, in my opinion, some questionable judgments that were made by this individual. So
John?
that's all I'll say.
I'm going to echo what Director Donlinger just said. Candidate G was one of my top choices. And for a number of reasons. Yes, I had on there small district. Candidate G led his school to a blue ribbon, had a fund balance of 24%, had national and state appointments, had many awards or recognitions, was very engaged in their community, had a good experience. partnered with many shareholders, stakeholders within the community. So I had candidate G as a high possibility. And then I visited with Barb and, was made aware of some other things as well, as like you all said. But prior to that, I did have written down, I thought I only read one reference letter in candidate G's, portfolio. And I'm questioning why was there only, and maybe I was wrong on that, but I don't know, Barb, but that's what I saw, was only one reference letter, and I see Director Brecken shaking her head that that's correct. There was no other work history given except candidate G's current job. And so I question that as well. So, with some of the things that have come up after my initially reading and evaluating candidate G's portfolio, I, like Director Donlinger, backed off of candidate G as well.
Tough gig.
Well, for me, it was a contrast, C and G. One was somebody without superintendent experience, but had good, like-sized district experience. And then here's somebody with a wealth of superintendent experience, but never in a system our size that I could recall, because the work history wasn't as complete as it maybe could have been. So for me, it was a variety of different things. Okay, so any other comments on G?
One just final and kind of an overarching comment. You know, as I was looking through these applications and getting some of the feedback from Barb, it became increasingly aware to me, not just about these candidates, but about superintendents and probably anybody in leadership anywhere that has to make really hard decisions, that there's going to be detractors. And there's going to be good news, bad news, and I think it's our job to weed through that, and I think we're doing a great job of it, but I just wanted to point that out, that we have seen some of that in the processes we've gone through.
Great point.
Yeah, I effectively threw most of that stuff out because MSBA did an excellent job of, kind of getting in front of that, which was a luxury we didn't have last time we did this. But I think that, to your point, it wasn't really a weighting factor for me, because I know candidate E, similar. When you're in a high-profile position like that, look at us. I sat right where Randy was sitting and got served with a lawsuit by Special Investigator Haskins one time. That's all out on the internet. If somebody wants to Google it, it's completely fictitious, and it was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen, but it's out there on the internet. It's gonna follow me around when I run for school board in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So I do think,
You'll be able to explain it. You're a pretty good writer. They'll just hire you before the interview after they read your deal.
So
All right.
this chair has bad vibes, is what you're telling me?
Not at all.
Okay.
All right, so,
Can I ask Barb, is it true that candidate G only had one reference letter?
True, I just looked.
Okay.
I think there's multiple all stacked together in one,
Oh.
yeah.
There's what?
There's multiple all stacked
Because
together
there's-
in one attachment.
There's 3 links
Gotcha, they're
though.
like,
But
they're all together.
all the links are,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't scroll by enough, I guess, okay. Okay,
Thank you for that.
yes,
clarification.
thank you.
It took me a while to figure it out too.
Is that North Carolina or Tennessee?
TBD.
Should we have a vote, whether they want to interview 3 or 4?
Well, I think
Or I'll make a motion.
we've sort of decided on 4, right? Or we're deciding between 3 and 4. So did we decide consensus G is a non-starter for us to interview? I guess Michelle and Sarah, you had that candidate originally on your first go-around, so.
I
we'll
did
go to
not,
you two.
I did not have.
Oh, I'm
G
sorry,
on my original.
John did.
John
I did.
yeah.
John and Sarah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yep, I am too.
Same? All right, so now we have paired it to a list of 4, and then I think the last piece of discussion is, do we want to interview all 4 of those people?
Can we review who the 4 are?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The 4 are candidate A, candidate C, candidate E, candidate H.
Okay, got it.
All right, I can kick us off then. I'm gonna kick us off. I'm in favor of 4, just to give us some flavor and complexion.
Problem with that.
If the 4th, if I felt like it was filler, just to make it look like we were interviewing a lot of people, so it didn't look like we were myopic, I wouldn't do it,
I
but
think our fourth one's a good one anyways.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So are we, we're gonna, oh, you're saying you're interested in interviewing 4,
We're just
not,
validating, do we want to interview the 4 that we moved into the interview bucket for sure?
not number 4?
No.
Which I keep going back between letter and number.
No, we are
Okay.
officially down to A, C, E, and H.
Got it, okay.
I'll make a
really-
motion that we
I'm really
interview
good with
A,
that.
C, H, and E.
I will second that.
All right, so we have a motion from Director Dondelinger with a second from Director Brecken to schedule interviews with candidates A, C, E, and H. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have our 4 finalists / semifinalists.
Right.
All right,
Okay.
so Barb,
I
I'm gonna
just
turn
have
it
to
back to you
say-
just to redirect us ever so slightly. I do believe though that you created, yesterday you created a template that rejiggers the interview process so that we can do all of these on Thursday?
Yes.
Or Friday.
So I will screen share that. I'll read the names at the end here because I do want to be able to call folks immediately after the names go public. Also keep in mind that I'll contact everyone and they do not have to accept your invitation to interview. So it's possible, doesn't happen very often. You may have 1 or 2 people that have chosen not to interview, but their name will still have gone public today. So I'll call and confirm. Typically though, everyone who's invited does interview. So congratulations. And I really just have to say, you did extremely well. Congratulations, everyone. I know it's tough to talk about private data in a public meeting. You did really well. There was nothing you said that could identify these people. It was very respectful. It was very thoughtful. And I really appreciate that. So well done, board members. I'm going to, if I could move into the second phase of things, this might not take too long, but I am going to try screen sharing the selection packet that you do have copied in front of you. And that way people who are watching this later can also take a look at it. Okay. Can everyone see the first page here? Interview schedule, yes?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So this first page is if you had 6 or we're going to run over 2 days. So I'm going to jump right past that and I'm going to zoom in on the second page. Why is it not moving?
You're in charge of it.
I am in charge of it and it's not responding, which is really weird.
The good news is we
What
all
the
have
heck?
paper copies, but,
Maybe I'll have to do that because
Just trying to let the public.
I've never had this happen before. I'm clicking down and it's not working. So, all right, my apologies. What if I stop pinning it if it'll work then?
The talking.
I don't know.
what is it in a PDF format?
It is a PDF. It's an 8-page PDF, same one that you have. But I don't know why it's not letting me go to the second page, so I'm gonna stop presenting. My apologies on
Go up in
that.
the left corner where you got the arrow up and down. See the
Let me
little
try
arrow
that
up in
again.
the left
then. I
corner?
don't think that'll work.
That might flip it.
All right,
Show
Brainerd
page 1.
selection packet share. Try it again. It says you are presenting your screen. And yeah, the little arrow that goes up and down as far as pages.
Right above you, yeah. Left, you see where it says page 1 of 8? Right underneath open?
Yes,
Try that down arrow.
yep. It's not working. Yeah, that's the one I'm clicking on.
Oh. It
Can
doesn't-
you type a value in the
always
field where
works.
it says 1 of 8 or 7 of 8? Can you click in that field? The white field up there, the white box?
Click it too.
Nope,
My mouse up a
I
little bit.
cannot.
It doesn't
I
like-
cannot.
Where it says 1 of 8 up next to the arrow, the down arrow?
Yeah, I'm trying to just type in 2 or 3 or 4 and that's not working
Nothing there
either.
Does it let you scroll up and
Rats.
down?
No, it's not letting her do anything.
Nope,
Huh, all right.
Frozen in
Nope.
time.
it's locked on a front page. What's that? Well, I'm sorry about that. It's never done this before in screen share, so I don't know what to do other than stop presenting.
I've never screen shared before.
Sorry, everyone. So the second page does show a round one interview schedule for one day. Anticipating it on Thursday, May 1st. You would start your first interview at 4:10. The reason not right at 4 o'clock is I do have some things I want to go over with the board. And if you call your meeting to order at 4, I want to have 5 to 10 minutes to kind of explain the questions that EMD form exceeds, meets, disappoints. So you would start your first interview at 4:10. All
All
of
right,
these spots.
can I
are
pause you for a
1
second,
hour.
Barb? I think the board
Yes.
wants to have a quick discussion about Thursday versus Friday.
Okay.
John, you want to kick it off?
Yes, please, thank you, Mr. Chair. Initially, I was okay with either Thursday or Friday. We lost a faculty member. And Thursday is an opportunity to for a lot of us to honor her. Anyhow, I just throw that out.
Her visitation is scheduled for Thursday evening from 4 to 7. And there are probably a number of us in the district that would like to pay our respects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Friday was,
Friday?
it's hard to compete with that. I had a conflict on Friday that I had to sacrifice something for, so I was kind of hoping for the other direction, but.
Not only does it allow the district folks to pay their respects, but it gives, going on Friday would be one more day for any of us that want to do a deeper dive. It gives the interviewees an extra day of preparation as well. And it allows for our district staff to attend to paying respects to a school teacher. Yeah.
I like that too. I think, as much as we're bringing these folks in to interview them, they're interviewing us in our community, and maybe bringing them in on a Friday would encourage them to stay a little longer and learn the community, so.
What about time of day? Is there any, did we choose 4 o'clock just from is that a kind of pro forma way to do that? Or did we do it because of our schedules, or I don't remember why we chose to do it in the evening?
We should do it earlier.
Don't they have tours and all that other stuff with staff?
Well, Mr. Chair,
On May 8th.
That's
Round
just the
2.
line.
Well, either one, either
Okay.
day. I'm talking about rejiggering it just incompletely, so we start in the morning maybe instead too.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, John?
and if it's Thursday, whatever, we'll do it when we need to do it, right? But I do want to talk about changing hours, because all of these meetings we've said are public and open. So if we do it during the day, I would love to see, staff here. I would love to see staff here.
I agree.
And we do see staff here, and we're appreciative of that.
So you're in favor of moving it to daytime hours, so it's during the staff day?
No, I think the
Or not
opposite.
doing it?
Yeah.
More towards the evening.
Evening,
Well, then we need to split it into 2 days. I mean, we gonna pay for the
But 2 and
candidates?
2?
Are we gonna pay for the candidates' hotel rooms if they get done, if they interviews over at 11 o'clock at night? And are you gonna wanna sit here till 1 o'clock in the morning and make a good decision? We're gonna interview 4 people, so if we start at 4, we're done at 9:15, then we have to deliberate on who we wanna bring back. So if we start this at 6 o'clock, we're gonna get done at 11:15, we're gonna be here till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Personally, I find this a pretty important decision, I don't wanna be all wiped out, tired at.
start at 6, I thought we started at 4.
It is
Well,
at
you're
4.
saying that you wanna move it back because it's an open meeting.
No,
No,
What's
he was
the
saying
difference
he was
between-
fine with the way.
Well, you're just talking about the staff, how about all the people that work in town?
well, that's my point.
Maybe they wanna come too.
That's
Well,
my
they work
point.
till 5 or 5:30.
Oh,
They may have to go home and feed their kids. That's why our meetings start at 6. So I think this is special circumstances, and we're not gonna be able to make everybody happy. And, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like, I don't think it's healthy for us to be
I understand.
doing this at midnight. So I was thinking, like Kevin said, start earlier in the day. Didn't you say start in the morning? Like, start at noon, start at 1, so that we're kind of deliberating at 5, 6, and then everybody could be here for that. Right? Or am I screwed up on that deal?
Is there a middle ground? I mean, like a 2 or 3 o'clock?
You
Yeah,
know,
I'll be fine with that. I'll do the 4 o'clock.
I would like to just personally stay with 4, because I have some things going that day, but, I mean, I can get out of them if I need to. But that's what we planned on, that's what we've publicized, that allows anybody who wants to come here to come here. I would propose we stick with 4.
and if we have to stick with Thursday, that's fine too.
Funeral's on Friday.
No, it's on or the viewing's on Thursday. But that night, we don't have deliberations if we, so we have the option to split it back out over 2 days to shorten those. I mean, we haven't talked about that.
No.
What we could do is we could, to Sarah's point, we'd start at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Thursday, do 3 of the interviews, maybe.
Or 2.
Or 2, and then
And
do
then
2 on Friday and do the deliberations, or
Yeah,
do
still
3 to
make
give
it-
us
you'd
more
still
time
make
on
it to the
Friday
wake.
for deliberations.
Visitation.
Yep.
We would make it to the visitation?
Well, if we started at 3,
Okay,
we'd be done at 5.
okay.
I know it gets to be a lot, but if it's possible to do all the interviews in one day when you're in one frame of mind,
with you.
I've found that it makes a difference.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, all you retired people have these busy schedules. Me, I'll just be here whenever you tell me to be here. I can make any of it work.
I think we should probably go to on Thursday and get it.
Why not Friday? Why not Friday at 4?
Well, Friday creates some logistical issues for the candidates to a certain extent, right? I don't know.
Why, we had it scheduled to do interviews.
No, I get it,
Thursday
I get it.
and Friday.
And doing them all on Friday, I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean,
just gives them an extra day. I mean, someone's gonna call them and gives them an extra day to plan as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with,
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll be here in person, regardless of what time, what day. But I would prefer Friday, all at the same time, as Sarah mentioned, it's, you get into your frame of mind and you let her go, and it might seem like a lot, but. you guys
yeah, the
have to-
funeral throws a stick into it to a certain extent. What about, I suppose anything after that, like Monday, makes it too hard to squeeze everything in between then and the finalists, right? Because they have to turn around and come back.
Barb?
You could do that. Let me check something. You're talking, I could not be there on Monday. I'm in another district, Monday the 6th you're talking about.
Mhm.
So that doesn't mean you couldn't do it. I could send someone else. But Monday the 6th, for the conclusion of round 1, I would not be able to be there.
and I'm down at Mayo Clinic on Monday. I think I told you guys that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Down there this weekend.
I think we should stick with Thursday,
that's what I would like to do
especially
as
if
well.
you're worried, concerned about attendance. People have plans on Friday nights, there's things going on.
No, it's fine.
I think you'd have a lot better turnout on Thursday. I mean, it stinks, you'd have to go to the funeral, I guess.
I can't do that, but
That's okay.
that's.
All right, so Barb, sorry for the sidebar, if we can continue now with using Thursday as the model.
Okay. My condolences, first and foremost. Loss is always really hard. So if we are now looking at Thursday, May 4th, to do all 4 interviews, you don't want to do 2 on Thursday and 2 on Friday?
I
I
can
don't think
still-
so, I think
we
to
can-
Sarah's point, I think trying to do them all while you're in one frame of mind
Yep.
makes sense.
Helpful.
Thursday,
Well,
May
there's
3rd.
that, and then there's the other side, if we moved them up to 3 o'clock, then everybody could go to that visitation and kind of accomplish everything for everybody.
Well, we could also do that, we could maybe start the first interview at 2, do another one at 3, then take an hour and a half break or something, let the people go to the visitation and then come back and pick up, is that legal?
Yes, you just take a recess. You'd continue the meeting for whatever hour, 2 hours in the middle. You could
What do you
certainly
think
do
of that?
that.
John?
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so let's do that, let's slide it to 2 o'clock. And that gives us the ability to slide a 90-minute window in there, I'll work with Kelly and we'll schedule that so that it snaps back onto this schedule. It's just gonna start 2 hours earlier to allow us an hour and a half recess for those of you that wanna go to the viewing. That okay with everybody?
Yeah, it's not me.
Okay,
on
it actually buys
Thursday
us an
now.
extra half hour
This is on
to our,
Thursday.
yes.
Okay. Thursday, May 3rd.
Is it okay if I hammer out the times now? Because when I talk to
Yep.
candidates. I'm gonna just
Absolutely, yeah, we probably
slide
have
in
to,
there.
right? So let's say first interview, well, you'll do your spiel
Yeah,
at
2
2 o'clock.
This is May.
First interview, 2:10.
Thursday, May 2nd.
Yeah, it's.
Yep.
it's a typo.
Second interview, 3:25.
Correct.
And then
And
the
then a
third
break?
interview would be
4:40. Oh,
no, we'd probably do
Barb can lay it out.
six,
You'd be
six,
done at- you'd be
6
done-
o'clock.
So you'd be done at 4:25, so the next interview could start at 6?
Yeah.
You take an hour and a half break?
Yep,
Okay,
6 o'clock, and
Yep.
then 7:15.
correct.
Then we deliberate.
Okay. And you take a break at 8:15, and by 8:30, you are starting to deliberate. Okay, I'm just gonna read back what I've got, because this is what we'll talk to candidates about. 2 o'clock, call to order. 2:10, first candidate. 3:25, second candidate. 4:25, break. 6 o'clock, candidate 3. 7:15, candidate 4. 8:15, break, and probably about 8:30 deliberations. It depends how long it takes to get those EMD results logged on. So is that the same times everyone else has?
Yeah, that works.
All right, and that is Thursday, the 1st,
no.
right?
Second.
It's the second. That's,
That's a typo, yeah, it's
Typo
actually,
says that, but it's.
tomorrow's the 1st.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thursday, the 2nd.
So the board meeting
All right,
is at 2.
appreciate it. So Thursday, we have 4 candidates that will slot them in. Could someone give me the language of where these will be held? All interviews will be held at, what phrasing do you use for where these will be held?
Here.
Here.
here,
All interviews will be held here.
Washington
Washington
Education
Education
Center.
The Washington Educational Services Building,
Oak Street?
room 208,
Educational
and the
Services
address is
Building.
804 Oak Street,
Okay,
Brainerd.
okay, thank you. All interviews will be held at the Washington Educational Services Building, address 804 Oak Street. Okay, and just a reminder that the interviews are not being live streamed. They are being recorded, and those who move on to the second round, those interviews will be posted on the district website,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay. All right, so that's the interview. It is a 1-day interview schedule instead of a 2-day, Thursday the 2nd. I put a tentative round 2 schedule in here just so you're aware of what would happen on Wednesday, the 8th of May. This has slots for 3 people. You might only choose 2, but at this point, you'd be beginning the first interview at 12:05. Call to order at noon. 12:05 would be the first interview. There would be tours of the district that morning to the final 2 or final 3 that staff are working on. So they'll be here earlier that day to walk through buildings in the morning. So does round 2 tentative schedule look okay to everybody also?
So they get an
Okay,
hour.
hearing no,
So they get it 1
about an
hour.
hour, yep.
And then I thought, when do we decide what the questions are for round 2?
After round 1.
When is that
So
meeting?
on Thursday,
Thursday night.
at 8:30, you'll decide who to bring back, and then we have some homework for you, which is on the next sheet in here, I can show you. So the night of Thursday, the 2nd, after you've named your finalists, we'll go through some housekeeping items, which includes questions. And I'll have a list of questions for you again to consider. It's always helpful to pick them after you know who's coming back, because you might have questions for them that you didn't think of until you talk to the 2 or 3 that you want to bring back. So round 2 tentatively on the 8th looks okay. The next page, I'm just going to let you keep. This is a tentative script, pretty much for the chair to use for the interviews on Thursday. You welcome people. You thank them for coming, for their interest in the position. You let them know you're going to rotate asking questions. And on Thursday, we'll sort of go in a circle about who asks which questions, but we do want each of you asking questions. You do have 14 questions that you just selected at the last meeting. 1 hour, I'll be bringing signs. I sit over to the side and I hold up stuff like this. So the candidates know, and you know as a board, so they can get their time managed well to get through all 14 questions in 1 hour. And then we do ask that you introduce yourselves. There's two ways you can do it. It's up to you. You could, Chair Boyles could say, okay, now we'd like to introduce ourselves and let each board member share your name and how long you've served on the board. And then you just sort of go down the row. Or some boards have chosen to introduce themselves, their name, how long they've served on the board when they ask their first question. So it breaks it up a little bit with introductions. But you can think about that and decide on Thursday how you'd like to do introductions. We don't want you sharing all kinds of personal information that you graduated from Brainerd or you have kids in the district or grandkids. One, it just takes too much time and you want to use as much as that 1 hour for the candidate as you can. Two, it also does open up the candidate to feeling some pressure to share with you their personal information about where they graduated or how many kids they have and those kinds of things, which, as we know, are protected classes from the interview training that we did last time. So introductions, and then you just roll into the questions. You take turns going around. You'll have a form in front of you to evaluate how well they answered in terms of your expectations. And there's a suggested closing that just says, thanks so much for being here, and MSBA will contact you when we've finished our deliberations. Chair Boyles, you can do anything you want with this script to make it sound like you, but I'll be off to the side. I'm not running these interviews, you are. So do however you would feel most comfortable with this language, okay? The next page is for your deliberations, and I want you to keep these and pull it out on Thursday, because once you've interviewed all 4 people, you are going to decide who to bring back. So this is how it usually works, and this is an outline. So the first thing I'll do is review those EMD results, the exceeds, meets, disappoints. I'll have a handout, a PDF that I can hand out to the board that says, hey, here's how you're leaning. It's not statistically going to tell you who to hire. It'll simply show you which candidates the board felt had more answers that exceeded your expectations or disappointed. And that takes me about 45 seconds to a minute. We don't dwell on that form. It's just one tool in your toolbox. The next thing we'll do is ask you to discuss strengths of the candidates. This also does not need to take very long. I just would ask each board member to maybe share one thing that they really liked about each candidate so that I can jot some notes down, because I'll be making some phone calls Thursday night to people who will be disappointed not to move forward. And I do like to share with them a couple of key points that the board noticed were strengths of theirs during the interview process or for their candidacy. So a very brief discussion of strengths. And then, now note that it jumps over the reference check reports, because that's something we'll talk about doing possibly before round 2. If there is someone on the board, and I know we talked about this in training, that wants to do some reference checking between round 1 and round 2 on your 2 or 3 finalists, you are welcome to do that. And I've got some forms that I can give you, some suggested questions. So if there's anyone that wants to do that, you can let me know Thursday after deliberations if you are interested in doing that before round 2. But for the first round, you just talk about strengths, and then you jump right to who are you leaning toward bringing back. And the chair will facilitate that conversation. Sometimes it goes really quickly, that there are clearly 2 people, maybe 3, that you want to see again. Sometimes it takes a long time, but it really depends on the pool and how you feel about their answers on Thursday. The only time we suggest going to weaknesses, if it says note, if discussions plateau and you feel stuck, you can then go to deficits or areas of growth, because you're going to have some people stronger in some areas than others. And so we don't want you to criticize these people in an open meeting because, again, it is their candidacies and their careers. But if there's someone that is not as strong in finance, for example, you could say, I know we're stuck between 2 people. I think we should go with a candidate who's stronger in finance. Both great people. I just don't think that this person is ready for our district size or our budget or something like that. So if you need to break a logjam, you can do that. Otherwise, we try to stay positive. That's it. We'll call everybody with the decision as the meeting adjourns, but there is a homework right here to that question to be determined after round 1. I'll hand out some round 2 questions that you can take a look at and prioritize the ones you think you want to ask or others you want to add. I'll give you the round 2 schedule with room for 2 or 3 people. We'll talk about a reference check process if someone on the board wants to do that. And finally, we'll review and refresh the negotiations process, because I believe you're already working on a contract, correct? So that after the second round of interviews, that very next day, you can start negotiating and hopefully have something ready to approve pretty quickly. So that's the homework for after round 1. That only takes typically 10 or 15 minutes. It could take more, and I'll stay as long as needed to make sure we get through all of that. Any questions on the deliberations? It'll make sense when it gets here, but I want you to have something in front of you to at least refer to during it. Okay, that's all I had. The next sheet is just on our vetting process that I already covered, and then the next sheet is the interview process that you could use, excuse me, the motions process that you could use, but you don't have to use this language. The most important piece is on the bottom of that first page. If you are selecting a new superintendent, if you find someone, and again, I want to reiterate, you do not have to settle and find someone, because we could get you an interim. If none of the 4 after round 1 or round 2 feel like the right fit, you don't have to settle. But if you find someone you want to be your superintendent, please make a motion that is contingent on 2 things: that a mutually agreeable employment contract is negotiated, and that a criminal background check is completed with results acceptable to the board. Those are the 2 pieces that have to fall in place in order for the contract to actually be offered. You can't just move to hire someone, because what if those things come back negatively? You need an out as the board in order to actually pursue the employment with that person. I'm going to ask you after round 1, maybe after round 2, about background checks. I was promised to circle back to you. That is an extra charge per person. The confirming of educational credentials and work history credentials, in addition to that national background check and criminal history, that's $395 a person. You don't have to decide now whether or not you want to do it. People usually wait and decide once they know who the candidates are. Of course, they have to pass the regular background check that every employee of Brainerd Public Schools does. This is a far deeper dive, and you can do it on 1, 2, 3, or 4 people. It's up to you. If you want to talk about it now and decide, you can. Otherwise, if you think you're going to want to wait and do it on your lone finalists or your last 2 or 3 people, you can wait and decide Thursday. So that's all I have. I'll turn it back over to you, Chair, to continue the conversation or to adjourn.
Okay. I guess the question is, since we altered the interview schedule for this week, do we need a motion to adopt the new interview schedule? Which probably would make some sense. Yeah, I mean, it'll be amended. So when the agenda that's attached to the interview on Thursday will have to be an amended agenda with the new schedule. So I guess I would entertain a motion to amend the interview schedule as we've discussed to move all the interviews into Thursday. Thank you, John.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Director Ward with a second from Director Heidman to adopt the updated, amended interview schedule as discussed previously. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and Kelly, I'll work with you on that. All right, so then the last item to discuss on the background check, I guess my thought, I'm betting most districts wait to make that decision until they have finalists.
Most do, correct.
That would be my,
I had one district that wanted to do it on all 6 semifinalists, and we can do that. We just won't get the results back before Thursday.
yeah, I mean, to me.
Takes
it's
about a
just
week.
Extra money we don't need to spend, in my opinion.
So if we pick them out on Thursday night, are we gonna have results by the 8th? That'd be the
That is
2nd,
6
that'd be
days.
6, so that's 2 of our weekend. Is that,
Possibly, but maybe not with the weekend right in the middle. The company that does the background checks, they do them all by phone and calling the educational institutions and the companies.
How
So
much did you say they were?
295?
395.
Why don't we just, that's another question I have. So should I just ask my question, so we can tie it all together? You said that we're working on a contract for whoever we're gonna hire. Who's working on that? And so my question is, my daughter was in the defense business, right? Making whatever, parts. And so her job's always, she'd accept the offer, accept the job. It was all based on a background check that they had 30 days to complete, like she would, you know? So, I mean, can't we tie that into the employment contract?
Yeah, well, the offer, the motion is contingent on that too. The offer is extended, and if they fail the background check, then
Offers rescinded.
correct.
So,
I like that idea. So then we just do one on the,
one person.
at a time.
If
I
they're not
guess.
gonna make it for a final anyways, what have we
Yeah.
accomplished? You know what I'm saying? If we do them and then we go interview the people on the 8th, and we don't have the background checks,
Yeah.
Anything sound squirrely about that to you, Barb?
No.
Okay, I like that idea.
You have to excuse me. I'm asking a question, something about posting requirements to change the schedule here.
Okay. And then on the
Excuse me.
contract, I think the only thing we've done so far is I guess I have the existing superintendent contract that we're using. I don't know that we've done a lot of work on it yet.
I don't know, I didn't
I don't know.
have a clue.
Somebody said we were working on it though.
The one
Barb said,
from MASA?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot, well, that.
I
and-
recall a conversation
And
the
then-
planning meeting about that, and I sent the model superintendent contract to 2 or 3 of you, I believe, that you were gonna use as a starting point, along with Heidi's current contract. So are there some parameters and such that you are gonna be able to converse and have it ready to go, maybe by the 8th, by that second round of interviews?
Yeah. Sarah and I could work on that. Does anybody else want to be involved in that? Everybody's got Tyrannosaurus Rex arms? all
I
of a
can
sudden?
help, I can help, I don't know. You gotta send it to me, I don't think I have it. I think I did see a copy of Heidi's come. Long time ago, like a month
Okay,
ago.
Then if anybody else wants to be involved, I can step aside and let one of you other three, if you want to be involved. I don't need to be involved in it.
Go on, I mean.
Aren't there
I'm fine
experts
with-
that are kind of on this deal? Like, it's.
Well, that's why we have a model contract. We wouldn't
School board
deviate from it a whole ton.
association.
There may be some nuances in there. Some of the nuances would be in the previous superintendent contracts that we've already done. So using Heidi's contract and looking at it against the model, and then just comparing it and looking at that. Because even then, once you get into negotiations, there's
Well, they might
different
want,
things that'll come up. Usually related to benefits and time off and categorization of certain
give them any
things.
ideas.
We'll have legal counsel review it before.
Yes, well, the district's legal counsel review the contract. Okay,
Well, didn't,
And Angie.
and Angie, for sure, yeah.
I mean, Barb, you sent us, oh, sorry, Barb. But we all got that information on area superintendent's contracts. I don't know if that's what she's talking
Yes,
about,
we did.
or, cause I don't ever remember us talking about or working on a contract or anything, but we
No,
do have
that-
the information.
Yeah, I got it,
For
and,
surrounding-
yeah, it didn't go to the whole board. What you're talking about was, looking at benefit and salary overview for
Right.
like-sized districts or whatever kind of.
But that'll be, I would assume that's gonna be part of the criteria that we'll be looking at is.
Yeah, we'll need that for, the 8th,
Right,
because we have to make a board decision on what the offer is that we're going to extend, or what parameters you give me to negotiate with that person.
yep.
All right.
So if I
Barb.
may, are you kind of caught up on the contract negotiations?
Yep, we're
and who's
good.
gonna be
Sarah,
working on the
DJ, and I are
contract?
gonna work on the
Okay.
contract just between now and the 8th and get it ready to go with Angie. We'll work with Angie internally here, and then,
Okay.
yeah.
I do want to revisit the schedule, and I want to thank Kelly for reaching out with a question about posting requirements. So if you change the time of the interviews today, the earliest you could interview is Friday. Because of the 3-day posting requirements, you don't have enough time to change the meeting time from 4 till 2 o'clock on Thursday. So thanks for asking that, Kelly. So I would suggest you either start on Thursday as planned at 4 o'clock and don't take a break, or take a break and end much later. Or you interview 2 people on Thursday and 2 people on Friday. Or all people on Friday. Does that make sense? We wouldn't have time to meet the 3-day posting requirement, and so you cannot change the time of the
Yep,
interviews on
makes sense.
Thursday.
All right, so that.
Thanks, Kelly.
We've gotta crack back open that motion, because we gotta undo it. I said I would still prefer Thursday myself.
Okay.
So in other words, we can leave it at that and then just not do them Friday. But we're stuck with the schedule we had.
Why don't we just do 2 and 2?
That's gonna change the schedule then too.
No, it's not, because we're
No,
gonna start
we
at
can
4
still do
o'clock.
it.
We
Because
could
you're
have done
starting at
3 and
4
3, or
o'clock,
we
what
could
you
do
do.
2 and 2.
I mean, again, but even if you do 2, you're,
Well, we're back to that whole deal, we're gonna start deliberating at 9 o'clock at night. Which, maybe this isn't gonna be that hard.
I
This
would,
isn't like the one on,
but the good news is we're not doing that on the 8th. That the way the
We're starting
schedule's
early on the
constructed,
8th.
yeah, because that was problematic last time, because I think what I would say was getting to our finalists was a whole lot easier. Like, it wasn't that, it's kind of like how it went today. You just kind of go through that process, and naturally, usually 2 emerge, and then
So if we stick with Thursday's schedule, then we're fine.
Yep,
Starting at 4 o'clock, and
all right.
we don't have a choice. Well, I guess we do.
Well, we could do Friday.
Yeah, I mean, you could do variations on a theme. You could do 3 on Thursday, do the last one on Friday, and deliberate on Friday. There's a bunch of
We're
different ways
trying
to do
to
it, but.
kind of,
But to your point, I think interviewing them all in one fell swoop is the best way to go, in my opinion. I think especially
I think it's
last
a great
time when
idea,
we did
like
the
8 o'clock
finalists,
in the
doing them on
morning.
3 successive days was really
I
bad
don't think
idea.
this night's.
It was hard.
I mean, I don't mind going to the meetings, I just,
Yeah.
you're way
Okay.
smarter, sharper.
All right, so can I get a motion to re-amend the schedule and go to the Thursday schedule as published?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion from Director Spear with a second from Director Heidman to redo the motion we did before to go back to the Thursday schedule and interview all 4 candidates on Thursday, the 2nd,
Starting at 4.
starting at 4 o'clock, as per the published schedule.
David's on the schedule.
Yep. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Now we're fixed, Barb. I'm glad we got that cleared up now instead of finding that out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I heads up to Kelly. I really appreciate the text alerting us to that question. So what did you decide about the background checks? And is there anything that I'm supposed to initiate right now? with
Nope, we
any of
decided
the
we'll wait at
candidates?
least until we have finalists.
Okay,
And then DJ
Thank
made
you
the
very
point that
much.
we might wait even until we have an offer on the table because of the way the timetables fall.
Because we won't have the information anyways, or do you think it's a good idea to do it on the last couple, just to get ahead of it so we'd have it quicker? And you might have it the
Have it
next
in
day,
hand. Yeah, that's probably exactly.
might get it you'll get it a lot faster.
But we would be extending the offer likely before we get the background checks.
Right, but you
back.
might have it a day or two, or if we wait till we get the.
Otherwise, we start the
Yeah.
week process
It
though.
doesn't.
I mean, I think you're right, starting that clock sooner makes sense.
It does kinda, just because
Yeah,
we had to go run number 2.
yeah, I suppose. Okay.
That was a week and a half later.
Okay,
Like,
so for now,
by the
nothing,
way
in
the
all
show-
likelihood, we will probably do the extended background checks and stuff on the 2 finalists, 3 finalists, whatever we come up with. Those that will
Okay,
be
but
interviewed
we'll
on May
decide
8th,
that.
we'll initiate that so that we're, even if we don't have them on the 8th.
Get the clock
or the
running.
9th, at least it's in process, so we'll get it
$400
within a couple of days of then instead of a week.
Well.
Yeah, 1,200.
We'll go down.
All right, this,
Great.
Randy,
Barb, would it be okay for you to send us your MSBA notes on all of the candidates that you talked about today that are going to be interviewed? So it would be candidate A,
C,
C,
E, and H.
E,
E, and H. Could you send the board members your notes on that, or is that not kosher?
what I could send you is the presentation form that I read aloud today for each candidate, just the summary.
Okay,
But I wouldn't be able to send you all of our notes because honestly, there's too many notes and too many people involved, and I wouldn't be able to pull them all together in one place.
yeah, I guess it's the summary.
The presentation forms that I read, just
Yeah,
the 1 page per each, okay, for those 4 people.
Good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is a good.
and then that
idea.
way, we can do a deeper dive then on those subject matters or any other subject matter we would so choose to do so, but it gives us a good starting point, so that would be very fantastic if you could do that.
Great idea. And I would recommend you go back into Revelis and now look only at those 4 people's information because you'll have access to Revelis through the end of the search. So go revisit those 4 people. Read everything that you think you need to read. Their answers to your questions about your district are important. And then obviously reread the stakeholder report if you have a chance before Thursday. And I will be up there before 3 o'clock just to help set up if I need to for the 1 hour beforehand. But otherwise, I think you're ready to go and you've got 4 very good people. I'll reach out to them here in the next 15 minutes to let them know that they're invited to interview with you. And congratulations. Again, well done on the private data in a public meeting. You did a great job.
thank you, Barb. The only remaining thing is to entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the
Oh,
motion.
John, you had something?
No, we don't list the names right now then at all.
Well,
They will, yeah, they're
Oh,
public.
I gotta read the names out loud.
That's what I thought.
Looks like Kelly and John are going to work for the MSBA.
Gosh. Goodness gracious. Thank you so much, Director Ward. I appreciate that. I can't believe I almost forgot about that. This is the highlight of the meeting. That's why people have sat through the last 2.5 hours or 2 hours of this meeting. Wow. Names of the public, I will call these 4 people and invite them to interview with the board. Thank you so much for asking that question. And I'm reading these not in order. So this is in random order. They're not in order of their alphabet identifiers. So congratulations. To interview for the position of superintendent in Brainerd Public Schools. Dr. Elizabeth Keenan, Adrian Norman, Dr. Christine Weirkamp Herman, and Christopher Dibble. Those are your 4 semifinalists. Congratulations.
Thank you, Barb. All right, so before I ask for a motion to adjourn, are there any other housekeeping items or relative things?
We have to turn in our, do we turn in our notes besides the, sheet that you gave us?
I would please turn back in that highlighted list to Kevin so he can take those and shred them.
Right?
He brought those copies for you. That includes a lot of private data with names of people you're not interviewing. So turn that back into Kevin. Kevin, please
You
shred
never
those. Thank you very
filed
much for
one.
asking.
You know.
All of your other notes, you can hold on until the end of the search. So
Okay.
keep your notes about all the candidates you've taken thus far. You'll be turning those into HR after the search is complete. I'll also be getting a press release off to your district staff here in the next 15-20 minutes, so they can use the press release that they'd like with the information about these 4 folks, including where they currently work. So I'll have that off to district staff here in maybe 15 minutes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
So we have a motion from Director Dondelinger with a second from Director Spear to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, Barb.
Thanks,
Good job,
Barb.
Chloe.
Thanks, Barb.
Bye,
Nice job,
everyone. Thank
Barb.
you so much.
Yep.
Yes, well done.